So on my 23rd birthday, which was October of 2017, I was like, a year from now, I'm going to be, no matter what it takes, I'm going to be worth seven figures, like no matter what. Yeah, it just worked out really well. And fortunate enough to say, like I was able to reach that goal by 24. My name is Gun Kevin Ho. I'm the co-founder and COO of Posse.io. We're based out of San Diego, California. It's a software technology platform that we use as a plugin for agencies, for influencers, and for brands. On a daily basis, the morning usually consists of an hour or two of email responses. It's typically overnight. I try to turn off my phone, my laptop, and email by 9. So you're gonna be seeing like a fluctuation of emails at nighttime that I don't get to. So over the morning, I try to answer all of that. If there's something that I need to get attention to, obviously, I'm gonna put that right away as a priority. Typically after that, on Monday, I look at what projects we need to push out for the day, topics that we want to push out for the next month, every week. Whether it's a change on the platform or a new coding development we need to get done, or anything management side, I need to get that done. Anytime in between there, I'm going into meetings if they call me. Every week it's something different, and then at least once a month, or we have a phone call with a client or something like that. Anytime during the day.
Haven't found a project.
Yeah. Have you worked with any Facebook or Instagram APIs? In the very beginning of this whole journey, I was reading like a lot. I was reading one book every week. The habit started because my old mentor, he was a huge reader. And he was like, if you really want to get in this, read this book. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. I read it and I just started okay, I want to learn more. Not just because I forced myself to or because other people were doing it, just I was genuinely curious. I wonder what's the story of Elon Musk, or I wonder what's the story of Bill Gates, or those people, And as I'm reading these books, I realized that every person has something different that you can learn from. Like, it's so crazy that this person's path was completely different than this person's path. Their morals were different, their intentions were different. But at the end goal, they were both billionaires. And I think that to me is so interesting, and that proves a concept that you gotta just trust your process. And as long as where you want to get to is where you really want to get to, that's all that matters. What we're looking for right now is a full stack developer who is very proficient. I was originally working for a company that was housed here. And it was my partner who is now my partner. He was my boss before. I was hired as an ad analyst, but also a developer. So as I was working there, we were working with brands who were spending like millions of dollars in advertising budgets. And I realized there's one common underlying flaw among all these different brands. So with the limited knowledge I have, I started developing a software system to better my work day. Honestly, it was to help out my tasks for the day and better improve the performances of the ads that I was running. And then I brought it up to my partner. He was like, whoa, this is something. And as we kept vetting it together, we realized that this was something that we could probably roll out as a business eventually. And again, I didn't start it just because I wanted to make money or be some entrepreneur or something like that. It was just I built this software because I wanted to improve my own work. Eventually, he put in the amount of time as well, and we were able to partner up. And so we became official partners at the beginning of 2018. And then that whole year, we were just developing the software. We were presenting it to business partners, financial partners, pitching it left and right everywhere. And eventually, we were able to land a really solid amount of funding. That was considered kind of our first round of big funding. And then we rolled out with the funding beginning of this year, which is 2019. And then, I was kind of thrown into this position of a business owner now. I didn't ever think about it like that, but it just kind of rolled into that position. It's just been the past year has just been crazy shift into my career field. This was kind of my real big thing. So it was a really exciting point for me. I was really able to meet a lot of really, really cool people, really powerful people, and make really good connections moving forward into my life, because I'm pretty young still, It wasn't planned whatsoever. I didn't wake up one day and was I want to be an entrepreneur. It just never happened like that. It just rolled into it, essentially. Put it into the universe and see if it happens. So there's always three things that come to mind. It's patience, logic, and trusting the process. Patience as in, if I could go back and do it over, I'd just be a lot more patient with things. There's a lot of times where I would force the quality of something and sacrifice the quality just so that I could push it out. And I think if I were to push out more quality work consistently, I think it would have definitely alleviated a lot of the roadblocks. And then logic, just think of everything as logic. I think too many people take emotion into account, and I think the moment you're emotional is kind of when you lose control of yourself. So everything is logic. If X is X, then X is X. Don't, just because your heart or your tears are telling you it's Y. It's never. It's X is always X. And just trusting the process, because there's a lot of times where I would think like, am I not doing enough? Am I doing too much? Am I moving too slow? Am I moving too fast? But it's crazy because everything just kind of falls right into place at the right time. And you're ultimately the decider of your own destiny. You just have to set a goal for yourself and go there. And if it's there, it's there. It's not, it's not. But at least you have to just trust the process and just move forward with it. I'd rather have like a detailed list of it, because then probably like 4 or 5 o'clock, just pushing out more projects, cranking more projects. If I'm not developing, I'm helping out the design team with ideas. If it's not the design team, then it's the social media team, the marketing team. So it's like a huge culture of collaboration. I think it works more effectively as opposed to a corporate setting where people just kind of put their faces down for 9 hours. We like to really work as a team out around here. So whether you're a developer or a designer, like you're gonna have your say in every part of the company. I thought you meant like, yeah. Okay. Because my whole life, I always was taught that if you really love something, you make time for it. At the time, dancing was my life. And I was never really understanding of that concept, because I think when we're young, it's so easy to drop one thing in our life and it won't ruin our life. So as I was directing my own dance team, a lot of the teammates were like, I think I'm gonna have to quit dancing because I want to focus on school, or I want to quit dancing because I want to focus on this or that. And not saying that's wrong, but that made me question, how come like I never really questioned that about myself, kind of thing. So as I heard all these things from my teammates, it made me realize like, why am I doing this? Why am I continually dancing? So that made me realize, I think, and this might not apply to everybody, but for me personally, it was like, if I really love something, I don't have to think about balancing it in my life, because it is my life. Like at the time, dancing was my life. So trying to balance it with, my part-time jobs or my friend group, it wasn't a question. It was just like, that's my life right now. So this is gonna be it. I think when people try to balance things, they're trying to add things that aren't part of their life. That's why they feel like they have to balance it. So right now, this is my life, the team is my life, family is my life, and then my friends are my life. I think at a certain point, if I were to master being able to give all those things my attention perfectly, then I wouldn't be human anymore, right? So I think, don't think about balance. It sounds weird, but I think too many people waste too much time trying to think about how to balance everything when they could just do it. And so a lot of the books I read too, they just talk about, the greatest and most successful people in the history of mankind. Not even just talking about finances, right? Just in general. When they set out to do something, they just did it. So in that sense, I try to keep my life simple. Like if I'm just gonna set out to do something, like if we're making a new set at dance, or if we're gonna develop a new software, or if I'm gonna plan a family trip, or with my friends or my family, you just do it. It sounds really easier said than done, but honestly, dude, you just gotta do it. Just don't even, I try not to just think about it. I just do it, like I think you almost have to be not robotic about it, but just be intentional. Like if you really want something, you can say it, but what is really in your heart? Like, do you really want to do it? Hey, don't go 245. So make sure that path is like this. See what I'm saying? It's very like boom, 5, 6, 7. Ever since I was younger, I've had this bad habit of like, if I want something, like I'm kind of obsessed about it. So when I was a kid, if I went to Toys R Us and I wanted a toy, like I would kick and scream until I got the toy. And that was the most I could do at that age to get what I wanted. So as I got older, obviously it transformed into other things, and I was able to really use that part of me to better my life. And yeah, my 23rd birthday, I was just grinding, like it was, I don't know why, but I was really passionate about just working, period. Like just being a productive person. So I would wake up at 4 a.m. every morning. I would get into my Civic. I would drive 60 miles to this office. And I would get here at like 5:30. I would work, take a nap in my car the whole time, and then come into the office, work again until, everyone gets off at 5 at the time. I would get off at like 8, 9 p.m., drive back home another 60 miles, get home around 10, 11, try to grab food if I could, work until 2 to 3 in the morning again, and then get an hour's sleep. That was just my life for like so long. And then on my 23rd birthday, I was like, yeah, I just want to live my life differently now. Like whatever it is. And I didn't per se say it was this, but I just didn't want money to be a problem anymore, period. Like I wanted to get my own place out here. I wanted to have that freedom. And I know that's really cliche among a lot of entrepreneurs, but that was genuinely like I wanted freedom for my family, freedom for myself, and for my loved ones. And so on my 23rd birthday, I was like, a year from now, I'm gonna be, no matter what it takes, it's that toy on the shelf at Toys R Us, like I'm gonna be worth 7 figures, like no matter what it takes. So just set out to do it, and then it was almost like it was God planned. Like it was this thing rolled out, and then like everything just fell into place. All of, like not just this, but my other investments everywhere else, and then it just worked out really well. And fortunate enough to say like I was able to reach that goal by 24. So it was just kind of like a self-realization thing for me, whether it was entrepreneurship or like I really pursued another business career field. No matter what, I just felt like I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna set out to do it.
Oh!
I think you have to be selfish for a little bit to be ultimately selfless. So when it comes to family, I think everybody who wants to participate in a family type of environment, whether it's blood or it's like a dance family, whatever you want to call it, you have to be selfless ultimately, right? But there are times when you have to be selfish in order to better the bigger picture of selflessness. So what I mean by that is, a good example is a dance team. To be selfless is to participate in every rehearsal and go full out. But in order to better the bigger picture of the team, you should be doing your own part and taking class outside of rehearsals. And you should be training outside of rehearsals away from the team to better yourself as a dancer, so that ultimately when you go into your rehearsals, you're bettering the bigger picture because you're a better dancer now. So in the same sense for myself, for my family, it was I have to better my own situation in order to better the bigger picture. So I wanted to take care of my family. In order to do that, obviously I need to make money. And in order to do that, I need to be a little bit selfish about my time, my resources, my priorities. And I think ultimately in the end, they see it too. And I understand it when they do it. It's just a matter of like looking at the bigger picture kind of thing and hoping that it resonates to other people too, that in your life, I don't come from like a wealthy family whatsoever. Both my parents work at restaurants. They've been doing it for like their whole life too. And I'm Korean, so the stereotype is true. Korean parents are very strict. So my parents, actually, I think they're a little bit different, but they were still, underlying Korean fundamentals, like get good grades in school, go to a good college, get a good degree, and just enter the workforce, Whether you're an engineer, you're a doctor, whatever it is, just be one of those stereotypes kind of thing. And so I went to school for bioengineering, actually. Obviously, I don't use that degree. I'm okay with criticism, I think, just because that's my personality. Like, I don't really care what other people think. But I think my parents faced a lot of criticism, too, because in the Korean society, like, these parents just kind of let their kid run their own business. Like, it's just kind of like, it's too risky for the Korean culture sometimes. They got a lot of, questions like, oh, like, your son's running his own business? Like, what the heck? Like, why doesn't he just, become a doctor? Like, use his degree or whatever. For me too, I think a lot of my fellow peers in my same bubble of ethnicity, like Koreans, they were really questioning, like, is he just one of those pyramid people? Like, you know what I mean? Those pyramid scheme people? Is he gonna just give me one of those calls to sell like snake oil or something? And I think in the beginning, a lot of people were questioning it. Like, a lot of times I think people think that people turn to entrepreneurship because they can't succeed in a certain career field. And it's kind of like the last resort, I'm going to open up, something, I'm going to open up a store or something like that. But I like to be a person where I just prove myself through actions. I hate when people are like, I'm proving my haters wrong. Like, just don't even think about the haters and do it for the people that you really love. Like, do it for the lovers, So for me, I had to prove to my parents, like, the people that I love, like, hey, it's going to work out. If I fail, I fail. It's my life. And so they were really supportive of that after a while. They saw like how hard I was working, the grind I was really putting in. And then also for the peers that didn't think that I would amend to something like this, after a while, they're the ones that are reaching out to me now being like, hey, are you guys hiring? Like, like it's kind of awkward getting that question. But yeah, I don't hate any of them. I don't think I think when people criticize you or, doubt you, I think that's totally natural. I obviously had my doubts about certain people too, and like I think it's just wrong for me to hate people for being naturally questioning things. So yeah, criticism, it's going to come along the way, but it's a matter of just how you're going to take that criticism. Are you going to use that to really motivate yourself, to prove yourself through actions, or are you going to let it bring you down? You're going a little early on you got to talk about? Yeah. I think when the beginning, it was really easy not to doubt myself because I was really indulged in it. So I was completely obsessed with this. So when I was doing it, I was like so in it, But I would say like, a year later, there are times when I'm kind of just sitting at home and I'm like, dang, what if this all just comes crashing down tomorrow? Like something happens, you know, knock on wood, but like something happens and the business is done. What happens next, you know? I don't think I would go broke, you know, but it would be like, damn, I failed myself kind of thing, you know? It's not even about the money at a certain point. It's just like, it just kind of proves who I am to myself. Am I this person that can succeed or am I gonna fail? And it's inevitable doubt, you know? Like it's just this creeping, lingering thought in the back of your head that you gotta suppress for as long as possible. I think your whole life you're gonna be facing it, you know? It's kind of like a friend, you gotta make friends with it after a while. You have to be able to accept how you're feeling, and I'm starting to sound like a hippie man, but you gotta, like, this is genuinely how I think of it. You gotta have peace with everything. There are people who don't like you, people who don't agree with you. It all comes down to your own perspective, right? How do you perceive these situations? And if you don't have peace with it, then you're the only person that's really hurting yourself. It's not like somebody can come in and be like, I own this business now. Like, nobody can do that. But the only person that can do that is yourself. I'm the only person that can fail this, you know? Doubt, like what I mean by like make friends with it is like, it's gonna be there forever, so have peace with it. It's gonna be sitting next to you for the rest of your life, just have peace with it. Like, it's there, acknowledge it. Don't try to ignore it because you can't ignore it. But don't ever let it overcome you. That's the one thing, like, don't ever let your friend tell you how to live your life. Don't ever let, you know, your spouse or your parents tell you how to live your life, you know? That's on you. Same way as doubt is that same figure, or like hesitation is that same figure. Don't let it rule your life. So it's a friend, it's there, but you know, ultimately at the end of the day, it's how you perceive it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There was definitely a curiosity in the beginning, and I was doing it because I genuinely just enjoyed it at the time. Like, I really was indulged in this subject, and after a while I think it grew naturally into a passion where I didn't have to decide one day like, yeah, this is my passion. It just naturally grew that every day I was doing this, and even when I go home I'm still thinking about it. And yeah, I think that's when I realized like, oh wow, this can be considered something that I really love. And so again, going back to dance, right? Somebody that just started dancing a week ago took their first class. They're like, wow, I think I'm really passionate about dance. Like, how, dude? You just started.
Don't rush it. Don't rush it. The time stops. Yeah. Okay. Where are we? Let's get.
You could be infatuated, but don't consider infatuation a passion. You know, it's just like a relationship. You meet someone for the first time, and you're just crazy in love with them, but you know, that's just infatuation in the beginning. You know, you don't really love somebody until you really get to know them. I think with every relationship that fails too, you learn something from it. In the same way that every passion that fails, you learn something. So essentially you're not failing, you're learning, right? I don't know if I've ever like taken a failure and like really let it break me, but there are definitely things in my life that I've tried and I've completely failed at, but I always consider it like I've learned something from it. And I think it's just a matter of how you want to live your life, because I mean, I can't tell you how to live your life, and we can't tell anyone else how to live their life. I can only say what I've experienced, and hopefully you can take something from that. But in my own personal life, whether it was a relationship or a career field, I just try to view everything as a lesson. So yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of how you perceive every situation at the end of the day. Again, it goes back to the whole have peace with it thing. Some people allow failures to destroy them, and some people allow failures to just be another stepping stone. And that ultimately comes down to you. If you don't struggle, you're not human, you know? Like, and something that my partner, who's also my mentor, taught me was like, when you reach a roadblock, that just means that you're moving forward. If I were to just stand here, then obviously what's in front of me is what's in front of me forever, whether there's a roadblock or not. But if I decide to move forward, I'm breaking ground, but at the same time, I'm allowing opportunity for another roadblock to come in front of me. I can choose to either just stand there and be stagnant, or I could choose to look at the roadblock, figure it out, and just get over it again. And I think roadblock and learning are synonymous in my own life. From every roadblock, you learn something, you know? So yeah, I mean, it's just like when you stop learning, you're dead. You know, the moment you stop learning in your life, you're dead. You're considered dead. The only people that aren't learning anymore, I think, you're not human anymore. You know, we're meant to live on this earth to learn. So yeah, I think the moment you want to stop learning is when the roadblocks get a little bit bigger. So just think of it as like, okay, I'm going to learn from this. I'm not going to think of it as like an obstacle per se. It's just another lesson. When you're going about this whole thing and you're pursuing a passion, unless you really give it a fair chance, you'll never really learn from it, and you'll never really see if that's really your passion. A lot of people get into it for like a month or a year, and they're like burned out, and they're like, you know what, I don't think this is my passion. I don't think passion is consistent, and I don't think passion is perfect. So in that sense, you have to work on it. It's a 50-50 relationship. Whatever you put into it is what you're gonna get out of it. So eventually you know when you gotta get out. But if you haven't given it a fair chance, it's about self-accountability again. You know deep inside of you if you've given it a fair chance or not. And if you have, and it's not working for you, then great, you've learned something. But if you haven't given it a fair chance and you want to quit, then that's just kind of on you. Like, you don't know if it was meant for you or not because you never gave it a fair chance. So I think anybody who's really looking to find their passion per se in life, some people go their whole life without finding a passion, and that's completely fine. I think it's just about pursuing something consistently, and in that sense, you'll get something out of it. Eventually, you become great at it, and then you decide, like, do I want to pursue this? Like, is this my passion? You know, like, then you can question yourself, but you got to put in the time to actually indulge in it first. I guess my favorite part about this is that I'm doing something that I really love. It sounds really cliche, but I could be sitting in a hospital, or like I could be, not saying it's a bad thing, but I could be working at a drive-thru, but sitting in an office, a roof over my head with a computer, being able to communicate with partners from Goldman Sachs Group in New York City, you know, or like big companies in Silicon Valley, like just being in this center of my life where I'm able to make really strong connections at this time of my life. I think that's where I'm really thankful for, and I think that's my favorite part, like just being able to make these connections right now, more than just in a business sense, but these are like genuine people who are the same wavelength as you. They want to grind just as much as you want to, and just being able to meet like-minded people, I think that's something to be truly grateful for. So yeah.